All right, man. We're live. How you been?
Awesome, man. Yeah, we haven't done a live stream in a little bit, a couple weeks, but we wanted to get on, and this is what episode 59 of the Help Find the Others
Yep.
podcast. Um, we've been talking about like for our format when we have guests, we're going to record those kind of the way we normally do, and then when it's just Stan and I, we're going to try and do live streams like this whenever we do that, so that whoever comes in, we can interact with you and stuff like that. But yeah, man. Since we talked last, I think um, it was our podcast with Will and or the Cosmic
Yep.
Giggle, and uh, so I was mentioning that I was going to take a mushroom trip soon and was hoping to do it that weekend, and I ended up doing it. So
Dive into that,
I don't
man.
know. I figured we could start talk about that, but yeah, I know you're in the same place where like since the world, went bonkers and we're in a pandemic and culture war, whatever whatever the fuck is going on with the world right now. Um, you know, neither of us has felt like or had the opportunity to, have a psychedelic experience during this time. And that's at least from my end, that's a personal thing. Like I really respect anyone who's been staying weird and having psychedelic experiences all throughout this
Mm-hmm.
time. I think it's important. Like we've talked about that a lot, right? That like uh, the cure for what ails the world is psychedelics, and I still agree with that, and I definitely hope people are still being psychonauts during this. But for me personally, just with my life responsibilities and just kind of the somewhat paranoid negative way I can look at the world, like I've just felt throughout this whole thing like, man, I'm not ready to process this through a psychedelic trip,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's been a couple times where I did feel ready, but then it just didn't work out. And that's another thing we always kind of talk about in our podcast and stuff is like, that you can't force the experience. It has to come to you, and it'll work out, and all the stuff will fall into place when you know um, when you're ready.
Yeah.
And so I definitely feel that's what it was. I think like our talk with Will like really was like talk about his experience, his last experience, was really, and his intention and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, that's what I want out of it too. To have like not go deep, not figure out the problems of the world, but to have a self rediscovery. And yeah, no, I definitely that's the sum up of the trip is that that's exactly what the experience was. So
Yeah.
it was definitely
Well,
awesome.
let's dive into it a little bit more, man. How much did you end up taking, and like what protocol or whatever did you end up? Did you just eat them straight up, or what were you? What was your go to?
No, yeah, no, so um my go-to, just because of nausea and like mainly gas problems that I've had from eating mushrooms. My go-to is to make the tea and strain the solids out. I've found that there's plenty of uh, doing a water extraction like that. There's plenty of psilocybin in it. Whatever you're losing from the solids, it just really doesn't make that big a difference in the grand scheme of
Mm-hmm.
things. Um, so I weighed out 2 grams, uh, and then well, let me talk about the mushrooms. Like I can't remember who I got them from, but uh a friend of mine who grew them gave them to me probably last summer. They were kind of old, and I didn't preserve them the best way. Like they were uh maybe not cracker dry when I got them, or I don't know. But for whatever reason, I felt inclined to put them in my desiccant chamber, which I've talked about. But you have a box, like a Tupperware box with a lid with like a rubber seal on it, and you put mushrooms in a bowl or on a plate, in there with also a thing of like damp rid or something, hydrophilic like that that'll take humidity out of the air. And I left it in there for probably 6 months with the lid off of it. Not off the tub. It was in an enclosed tub
Mm-hmm.
with a thing of damp rid, but that only lasts for like 3 months. But I don't think it got too much oxygen to it, but it definitely. I was thinking like, man, I killed the potency of these, and I really didn't like think about that until I had already made the tea or ground them up and weighed them out, and so I was like, I better add some, and I just like probably put like 3 stems and a cap in there, but I didn't weigh that part out. I just put it in the grinder. So I figure it was 2.25 grams, 2.1, 2.2, maybe. I don't know, but for whatever purposes, I'm going to call it 2.25, and it may even been more. I didn't, like they were kind of bigger stems. I'm not real sure,
Mm-hmm.
but and then I ground that up and made the tea. But also, like I said, about like kind of a underlying like paranoia about this time with the world. I didn't want to deal with that, and I didn't want it to creep into the trip and whatever. So I took Phenibut about 2 hours before I did started making the tea.
What is that?
Well, so that is a anxiolytic, so an anti-anxiety drug. It is like, as far as I can tell, 100% legal. You can get it on eBay. It is an over-the-counter drug.
Kind of like a nootropic.
It, it's a nootropic, but not in a stimulant way. Like a lot of the nootropics I've tried are semi-stimulant. Where Phenibut works on your GABA receptors, which is the same as alcohol, like what alcohol does, and so it's the inhibition, relaxed part of being drunk. So it kind of does that, but then doesn't. I mean, you can get lifted off this stuff for sure if you take a ton of it, But I take like a gram, which I think is a little more than what it says on like the container to take. But some people take like 10 grams of this stuff, I think, and I'm really cautious to do that. It has a lot of addiction potential and can really cause some serious like kind of post like the next like couple days you can feel really down, kind of like you know Molly or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Um, and because of that, people end up taking it like every day, and they like how it makes them feel, and it gives them confidence and takes away their anxiety, but doesn't like it. It's different than a benzo because it doesn't like drag you down. Like if you take higher doses, it does, but like it dulls you a little bit, but not that much, And so that's what I think makes it good for psychedelics. Because I've taken benzos with psychedelics, and like you're just like, like
Yeah, yeah.
kind of couch locked a little almost. It's hard to walk and stuff like that. And so Phenibut is not that. And that's actually one of the reasons it is kept in stock on the International Space Station in case anyone, gets space sickness and
Oh, really?
wants to try to break out the windows and escape or something like that. Yeah. And it's because they can still do their work. I mean, I'm sure they have Xanax and stuff on there
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
but it's like kind of globally accepted, and it's used a lot by the Russians. And I believe that they actually like produce a lot of the Phenibut production in the world. But it is it takes care of anxiety, which can increase focus. It doesn't, a lot of the nootropics increase focus by stimulating your brain, much like Adderall or something like that. This is different, where it like removes the worry that can cloud our judgment and actions and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So that's one reason I think it's great to take with a trip. Now I took it 2 hours ahead of time because that is definitely it has a very long onset and a long duration.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and which is really good because it helps with sleep, but it doesn't put you to sleep. So you can take it, enjoy its effects, and then enjoy its effects by getting really good sleep because of its long duration. Um, which is another thing that like is pretty good with the trip is like the end where you're like, oh, I just want to go to sleep, but I'm fucking sitting here just like in a thought loop. Like, you know, the Phenibit helps you like be done when you're ready to be done with tripping. So I really liked it with LSD, and that's why, you know, I was like definitely gonna do it with this mushroom trip. Um, so anyway, you know, yeah, 2 hours later, made the tea, drank it. Um, it had a pretty quick onset. I think that's one thing that definitely making the tea, but I think the Phenibit also like increase that, like because I think a part of what can feel like a long onset during a come up is the whole like, oh, am I feeling it yet? Am I feeling it
Yeah,
yet? And a
yeah.
little bit of that like anxiety of like, wait, oh, was that, you know, like kind of thing. And the Phenibit's like, whatever, I'm gonna start tripping at some point, and it helps it like just let go and come on. Um, so the come up was like a really one of the least anxious come ups I've ever had on a psychedelic. Um,
That's awesome.
However, you know, set and setting play into that though, or at least setting, because so for like the first hour of, you know, sitting down and letting it happen, uh, we listened to these meditations that
Oh yeah, how'd those go?
this yeah, so it's like the you know the 21-day meditation challenge from Deepak Chopra, um, who I mean some people might think he's kind of a scam artist,
Mm-hmm.
you know, goop type, but and he may be. You know I don't know much about the financials around his situation, but you know just listening to the meditations in this 21-day challenge, um, I like what he has to say, and I like the way they're produced and stuff like that. And they're a combination of a guided meditation and you know about a 10-minute silent period. With well, not silent, with music, but you know he doesn't talk for about 10 minutes. Um, and So we did the 21-day challenge, and then we kind of fell off and weren't doing it, but then you know got back into it. So so yeah, just listen to the meditations, and like I'd say after 15 minutes, like the first one sounded normal, the second one like got real echoey and like kind of sounded like there was like a little bit of a phaser effect on his voice and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, it's definitely you know kicking in. And um yeah, it was it just got weirder from there, but in a good way though, you know, where it's like I've listened to like really intense music to come up, and that's just not a good idea. I think like looking back all the way to my 5 gram trip, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the video, but I was listening to Funkadelic and like their kind of most aggressive song that they have during that come up, and I think it like led to like a you know a lot of anxiety that I just couldn't handle.
Yeah.
So having these meditations was like just kind of a complete 180 of that, you know, to where like it put me in that like calm inner peace state, which is what my intent was for the trip. You know, it was to just have a good time, like a party dose. Like I wasn't trying to do anything heroic, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the Phenibit, you know, just kind of aided in that. It let me like follow through with my intent and have the confidence that like I'm in control of this ship, you know.
Nice,
Um,
dude.
yeah. So like the first hour, uh, was that. Then we were listening to music, you know, and I have all the laser lights and stuff, and like, yeah, I mean, through the peak of the trip, didn't leave the bedroom, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then and was really not floored, but like just didn't feel like leaving, didn't feel like exploring. It was just like you know living in the moment and feeling good, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and being confident that it's going to stay that way. And so like that, you know, that's a key thing for a trip, man. You know, that's what's going to keep most like bad trip kind of shit away, you know. It's probably not the best way to like really tackle uh existential, you know, questions and have visions and, you know, meet entities. Obviously, that's not the best set and setting and dosage for that to happen. But it's like you know, that's not the only kind of trip there is, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that'll come for me, but that's more, um, you have to really be ready for that. I still got a lot of shit to work on before I tackle that. I feel like.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so after the peak, oh, and well, I'll get into it after this, but so after the peak, we decided to walk around the neighborhood, take the dogs for a walk, and I don't know if you got to see, probably not being in Chicago with light pollution and stuff, but that comet, what was the name of it?
He, I don't know the name of it, but I heard about it. I did not get to see it.
Yeah. Oh, Neowise, right? Wasn't it? Yeah, Neo.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, the pictures are fucking fantastic that I've seen,
Yeah.
and like, I mean, I live in the burbs. There's not too much light pollution, but like, I'm half an hour from Dayton and 40 minutes from Cincinnati, and like, there is a lot of light pollution. You got to get farther away from a city for that. Um, but I can see like the Big Dipper and stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the the comet's supposed to be near it. And so, like, when you walk out the back of my house, there's a big field, and it's like a soccer field or something like that for a school. And we're walking across that, and I was like, "Oh, wait, the Big Dipper! I bet the comet's out." You're supposed to look at the tail. And I'm like sitting there, like looking up at it, and then all of a sudden, my dog like starting to really stargaze, and be like, "Oh, actually, fuck walking. I just want to look at stars." And and then my dog starts freaking out, and I look over and I've got like a big flashlight, and she's like fighting something, and I shine the flashlight, and we're like in a playground basically, and I shine the flashlight where she is, and there was a possum under uh, a slide, and I mean, I don't know, have you ever run across a possum?
No.
So they're really weird, and they move really slow, and they look fucking awful. I mean, they are a haggard goddamn animal. I mean,
Yeah,
sorry if there's any possum lovers listening, but
yeah.
uh, oh, they're hideous when you're not tripping, you know,
Yeah.
and just shining this flashlight, and it's right there, and it's got this evil fucking look, and it hisses, and it's like hunched
Oh.
over, like eating something or doing something, and it's like looking back, and it was just like, it totally was like to the trip.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah, yeah.
killed it, but it like made everything weird. It made outside very weird, coming from this like kind of um womb of like meditation and music and lights and stuff like that, to like this haggard creature hissing at you. Kind of sucked, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
like, so I was just like, come on, come on, come on, come on. We just like kind of went past, and then we're walking in like this neighborhoods that are, really nice and safe, and and it's like, I don't know, like 11:30 at night or something like that. It's kind of late, like most people are not out, um, and it's super hot, like, so like most people just aren't hanging out outside. Um, and like we cut through the school, and we get in these neighborhoods, and then like all of a sudden the street we walk on, like everyone decided to, it was party time outside, and there was like just people every like house we passed, there was someone doing something. We walked past this driveway, and there was just some weird guy sitting out uh with a big ass telescope in his driveway, just like watching us walk by, and like that was just creepy. And like, um I was like talking about like acid trips from my youth, and like talking really loud about acid, and then like walked out like onto the sidewalk, and this guy's right there with a telescope, and then I just was like quiet. We just walked past and quiet, and I was like there was a guy like there, right, and then we like turned a corner, and someone was like out working on their truck on the side of the road, and like it was just like all this stuff that was just like, yeah, let's go back home, and
Yeah, yeah.
um I mean, we hung out on our patio and stuff like that afterwards, but uh I usually like to walk around the neighborhood tripping, but that fucking possum set me off, and it was just too weird. um You know, and then I like even thought about it afterwards. I was like, well, yeah, there's that fucking comet out. That dude was looking for the comet. Like
Oh yeah, yeah,
wasn't that out of the ordinary. And like, I mean, people work on their trucks, it's like whatever. But it was just super weird, like walking around and kind of creepy. Um, and like I didn't have very like strong visuals, but like it was enough where everything was kind of like prismatic and like had halos to where it was like just kind of, I don't know, just overwhelming.
yeah, yeah. Well, and when like you said, when you come from that comfort mindset of being at home, like everything's peaceful and chill, and then you go outside and you encounter a possum, it could set you off.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, that definitely, it would have been a lot better if that wouldn't have happened. I think it would have been a fun walk, but that
Yeah.
definitely, made it awkward. But uh
I mean, that definitely reminds me that like how important setting is from somebody that hasn't like dove into like psychedelic waters recently. It's you can kind of not prepare for it fully.
yeah.
You know what I mean? To where
uh,
like, I mean, a sober mind, you're like, oh yeah, it's just a possum. It's just a guy looking for the comet, you know. But like, you need to check all the boxes in the
yeah.
setting column because it's just like the weird stuff. Everything's heightened. So like things that are weird is heightened to the nth degree of
Yeah.
weirdness.
Yeah.
And like your mind like is tricking you too. It's like everybody's out and you're like trying to hide that you're tripping, and it's just like it's not good
Yeah.
when there's people that don't know your situation that you're around, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. Now public's tough. I mean, I did it
Yeah.
a lot in high school. I did it a lot, going to like pizza joints and sub shops and stuff like that late at night, tripping and stuff like that, walking through people's yards. There was one time on acid, I have like my friends were like going in a store to get something, and there was like a house next to it had a trampoline. I just started jumping on these people's trampoline like in the middle of the night, and yeah, I did a lot of crazy shit in public. But as an adult, it's tough, especially when you're walking around like your neighborhood where
Yeah.
like people that see you every day are like, what's that fucking weird dude doing? Like,
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, man.
but
Yeah, I don't think I would ever be able to trip and walk outside. I think if I tripped, it would be like almost completely an indoor thing until it was like the final hour of wearing off.
well, yeah, and
Just because
but
I'm in like a major
and that,
populated area.
right,
Yeah.
right. But that's why like I feel so strongly like a calling of mine, or a mission in life at least, is to provide the private outdoor experience in nature, like I've had up in my farm,
Mm-hmm.
like that. um it's that's a whole nother trip, and it's very hard for people to do that, even if you can go to a park, like you're going to encounter
Mm-hmm.
people. So being able to be in nature and like know that you're not going to run into nobody, is
It's nice.
that, yeah, like you're where you're supposed to be and you're the only one that's supposed to be there. Like that's an awesome feeling, and a lot of reassurance if you are tripping, and especially doing it during the day too. Like, um, that's another component of what was weird about my walk with this trip, was like it was just night, and like, I was having enough visuals that lights were really disorienting, and whatever, and um, yeah, doing it during the day in nature is something else. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never experienced that, but from what you and your friends say and everybody that comes on here, it sounds like it's just an awesome thing. Yeah.
but yeah, so back to this trip, like as far as like other enhancements, um fuck, I went through like 2 cases of nitrous. Like
Oh,
it was, yeah, it was there were some pretty heavy nitrous sessions. um but it's fucking awesome. It is such a good compliment to the mushroom trip. um I don't know. That's like one thing I will always be a proponent
what does
of,
it do?
no matter.
Like on your
Well,
dose, what did it do?
it kicks it into high dose realm. I mean, it makes it the exact same experience of every high dose experience I've ever had, but only for like 2 minutes, and without any like fear of like, oh, this is never gonna end. I'm stuck here. Like for some reason, like you either don't know or don't care. It's probably more that uh, if it'll end. But it's kicks visuals and emotions and definitely like the sound hallucinations, auditory
Hmm.
hallucinations, or it kicks those up. It makes everything like echoey and delayed, and like it's just a very surreal experience. But it's just a little quick taste, a little hit of it. Um, and it comes back down, but you're a little higher. It really adds to and builds up, and that's how I end up like doing like a bunch of hits, because it like just builds up, and you know you can end up probably tripping about 50% harder for like a half hour after you've been doing nitrous.
Hmm.
Um but so did a lot of that, and then like towards the end, maybe right after the peak, or no, like right after we came back from the walk, I took kratom too. Like I think that's a really good way to like end out the trip as
How'd
well.
that go?
It's really good because I think like the like onset of that ends up when you're in a psychedelic state. It ends up being very um like I got very like sentimental, like a lot of times my like thought train and like the excursions I go in my brain, like laying there with my eyes closed, are very future focused, like very like, oh, and this is what's going to happen to humanity, and Bitcoin is going to do this or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
like those are the thoughts I have. And this was very much like thinking about all the people in my life, and being very like grateful, and like being like, oh well, this is why I'm friends with them. I need to do, like kind of trying to figure out connections with people.
Yeah.
um one person in particular was Rich. Like I don't know if we talked about it last time, but I he's moved to a farm and not too far from me, and I donated a windmill that we had up in New York that I was never going to put together, to him to help out his farm, and the sustainability he's building. And I was just like thinking about that, and like how almost like I'm very grateful for everyone that listens to podcasts, and everyone that's a part of our community. um yeah, and I was like almost thinking like, man, if like out of all those people, if there was only one person I came in contact with, and uh befriended through this whole thing, if it was just Rich, like shit, that's actually pretty awesome. Like it's a really good thing, because like when I dropped the um windmill off, um we hung out and talked for a little bit, and I ended up thinking at the end, tail end of this trip, I was like, man, that's actually like the first and only so far like person from this whole help find the others thing that I've met in real life,
Yeah, yeah.
and just started like all these like thoughts and feelings about that, and being like, I need to build on that feeling, and I hope others, start to build on that through, if people through our Discord and stuff like that, um, find out they live relatively close, and or don't mind going to other people. I would love to see stories of some of you guys, meeting in real life, because it makes it so much more real.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That's cool though. The sentimental component of that sounds really nice because whenever I take it, even just like without psychedelic influence, I feel like you kind of get there's a little bit of self love that comes your way, and
Yeah,
I feel like those
yeah,
two can
yeah,
really synergize together.
yeah. No, and I think yeah, it does synergize. That's a good term, because it's a really good thing for the tail end of a trip. Like I just was kind of flooded with all these like kind of realizations and gratitude for people, and I think that was a really important thing that potentially was subconscious intent, is like I can get really caught up with like Twitter and Facebook and like how people are to each other, and like right now that's just getting worse. People are just awful to each other right
Mm-hmm.
now. And it's because it's online, it's not in real life. There's so many things I see people say to other people. It's like you wouldn't say that if you were face to face, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
uh, and I can get caught up on that, and that can become the reality tunnel. Is like, man, people are fucking ugly,
yeah. That's true.
and 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 it was really good to have a very meaningful moment of being like, some people are, but there's just as many people that are fucking great. And like, just because you've only met them on the internet doesn't mean that like that isn't a real thing. And we should strive to build that out into the real world.
Yeah, yeah, man. No doubt. Like it still blows my mind that we haven't met, but that day's
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, dude. I'm happy to hear that it kind of turned out for you though. Like,
Yeah.
that I've been pondering a trip, and I think staying in that lower dose range would be good for me without kind of losing shit. Like I don't want to feel as I'm here. If I do it here, I don't want to overdo it. That's what
Hmm.
frightens me. But I think with like the Phenibit, like you said, and the kratom at the end, um, that could produce some pretty powerful stuff. Have you felt like new energy or more drive or anything like that from coming out of it?
The next day I was like, I felt very creative. And like our kids stayed at someone else's house overnight, and like didn't have to get them till mid or noon. And so like woke up early enough to like not have anything to do, and was like, because I usually play guitar like at night,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, or like at times when people aren't home, and I was like, well, shit, I'm gonna go play guitar. And I've been working on this song with my band, and there's just like a couple parts I couldn't kind of figure, and I've just been lazy and been like, whatever. And like I totally had the motivation and creativity to like kind of solidify the ideas I had. And um that's pretty good, because like I used to write a lot of songs in my 20s and stuff like that. And uh for most of my 30s, I all I've done is like rehash old songs, like play them a new way and stuff like that. um as I've been in different bands that have different sounds, and I'll be like, well, I got this song, I'll play
Yeah,
it kind of the
yeah,
way we sound, or whatever. But to like come up with something new and something, and that represents how I'm feeling now, especially when it comes, to lyrics or anything like that. Um, that's that's important, and like that's a direct effect of, or uh, after effect, I guess, of this trip for sure. And much like we were talking, I think with Will, that energy fades away.
yeah, yeah,
So like, um, but I think that's important for me too, to have that as an after effect and not an effect, because it's like I've never been able to be creative while directly under the influence of psychedelics. Um, but that lingering like after effect of creativity, like that's almost better than if it was the drug made you creative, but only while you're on it.
yeah, yeah. It's like tapping into your own potential and not like something else. It's not like you're dependent on that. It's like you're
Yeah.
you're trusting in yourself to do more. Kind of like eliminates um the flap that of fear. Kind of. It's like it eliminates the doubt of what you can and can't
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
creatively. At least that's what I've noticed. Um,
Yeah.
but dude, that's awesome, man. That definitely inspires me. I've just been kind of like focusing on one thing every day and trying to just do that and
Yeah, man.
and see, as long as I do that, I can say that I've done one. And I mean, sizable things. It's like work on my LLC's website or uh, edit a couple podcasts, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you can always say that you've done something. You know,
Yeah.
and I've been taking kratom occasionally, and that's been helping kind of stay in the flow. Like there's no, whenever I'm having like a bad day or a day where like my thoughts are all scattered and all over the place, I can take that and refocus my energy towards whatever I'm working on. And like that's like kind of a
Yeah.
new way that I've learned to use that and take it. It's been awesome, man. And like it's beats the hell out of when I used to take it for just relaxing. You know, it's like I'm
Yeah.
taking it with the purpose of being creative and productive, and I think that's kind of like a new way of hacking uh, the negative stories about it, or you know, maybe a way that I before it I didn't think like that was a way of using it. You know, like in the
Yeah.
stimulating way. I never really done it like that. Um, but now it's just like that and coffee. Like if I pair those two together in the morning, like I can put together 3 or 4 straight hours of dedicated work towards something creative, and it's been
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take it, like maybe just 2 caps of it or something. If like, I don't know, if there's a day that like I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, I'm not
Yeah,
feeling
yeah,
work today, like it helps me power through for sure.
yeah. No, that's what
Yeah.
I've been doing it for too, and I guess like I said, I just never really done it like that. Like before, I would take it at like nighttime for winding down, you know, and going to bed. And I guess it has that use too, but I
Yeah.
think it has more for me. I think it has more power in the morning energy and like focus side of it all. It reminds me like the slight like euphoria you can kind of get reminds me of when I used to take when I used to be prescribed like 5 ants, and I think maybe
Yeah.
there's some tie in there with my brain, like the conditioning that occurred during those 2 years that I was taking
Yeah.
that like associated that feeling with productivity, that I think it
Yeah.
kind of is tapping back into that, but I don't know. I'm all for it.
Well, I mean, it's probably dopamine. I think they both have like kind of a dopamine rush associated with them,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. No doubt that, but I think it's also like even once that wears off, is what I'm saying is like I can still, I guess, tap into that feeling, you know,
Yeah.
and keep pursuing whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, that sounds good. I'm.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. And yeah, I mean, to sum that up, I mean, I definitely think kratom
Oh
is
yeah,
an
yeah,
excellent thing to take with mushrooms. I mean, fuck, people combine worse drugs, right?
yeah.
Like, but it's, uh, yeah, I don't know. And I would like to experiment with taking it beforehand. I haven't done that yet. And one reason I I'm hesitant is
You
because,
could dull it, maybe.
you know, well, no, it's more that there's a crash with kratom. It maybe like 2-3 hours in,
Yeah.
like I have a like kind of thing, um, to where like my body wants me to redose. And any drug that produces a kind of crash requires very important like or strategic timing with the psychedelic trip, because that can be your bad trip right there. If you're like start to come up on mushrooms but crash on kratom, like I think that could be a bad
Oh
synergy
yeah,
right
that's
there.
true.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Um, yeah. But I think that's something people could potentially experiment with, but I'm not going to though.
Yeah. No, I think it's good as the tail end.
Yeah.
What else? What? So I kind of wanted to talk more about the nitrous though, because I don't think I'll ever try it. Oh, I don't want to say ever, but it's not something that's on my checklist necessarily. But like when you take that and you say the trip's heightened, like how, like what mental spaces do you go into, or like what? I'm confused at what you mean by it being heightened.
Oh, just everything, man. Just like all 6 senses that are firing in a psychedelic trip get kicked up a notch. Well, more than a notch. I mean,
Do you go to like visuals?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Visuals. It really, really amps up the closed eye visuals. The open eye visuals, It just makes everything a little more like circus like, if that makes sense. Just like it adds a few more shades to every color, if that makes
Okay.
sense. Um, uh, but it's not like it'll make the high dose experience of seeing something that isn't there with your eyes open. It won't really increase that unless you increase your dose. Like when I took the 150 microgram acid, uh, I was seeing open eye visuals of stuff that either wasn't there or that I normally don't see, whichever way you want to look at that. But I was seeing fairies and my dogs smiling and like just weird stuff that wasn't there. Trees moving and acting like moving like bodies and whatever. And nitrous at that level increases that more. Like I was like riding around on my golf cart outside on that dose and like would stop and then like hit nitrous and just like kind of observe like where I was, and was seeing like grass turn into bugs and crawl around, and then bugs turn into grass and sit there in the ground, and all the stuff that like that wasn't actually happening.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
mean, it does happen, but over a longer period of time than watching it happen. But anyway, like um, when you're on a lower dose, it just kind of amplifies like the colors and the like. Um, like I said, the strongest open eye visuals I was having on this 2.25 or whatever was just kind of uh, a prismatic effect to lights and stuff like that. Um, so the nitrous would only increase that, but at a 2.25 gram dose of however much potency these had lost, which that was the other thing I guess I didn't like go in, explain, was like, for as bad as I said I treated these mushrooms, I don't think they lost any potency because it was more it was a stronger experience than I was expecting. And that's why I added, some unweighed shit into it, because I was thinking like, I hope these aren't bunk.
Yeah.
But anyway, the strongest like closed eye visuals I was getting was just kind of like some faint, designs moving and forming shapes and symbols and stuff like that, but like very, very, very faint. Um, but enough to know that it was there and observing it. But then like you hit the nitrous and it changed that game for sure. To where I had closed my eyes and like the lights are off with just like a laser light that kind of looks like purple water all over everything. And uh, I hit the nitrous, kind of like laid back and closed my eyes. But as I closed my eyes, the exact same scene of the room appeared, but in like a animated charcoal or pencil drawing. Um, black and white, grayscale. Um, well, you're probably too young, but the video for Aha's Take on
Oh,
Me. I don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
if you know what
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
about. Okay, yeah. Well, so like that video, like that's how it looked when I just closed my eyes. Everything I was seeing was that, and then it was doing stuff. Like my dog was walking around and like looked cartoonish and was like looking at me weird. But like when I would open my eyes, that she wasn't there. She was laying down sleeping, and then would like close my eyes and it was like the scene. It was the exact same scene of where I was, but in this charcoal animated thing.
Yeah.
To even like, my wife was like sitting there meditating, and I was like looking over at her, and she was like turning her head and looking at me, but like when I would open my eyes, she wasn't paying attention to me. Um,
That's crazy, man.
yeah, but that would like fade away. It's
Yeah.
like 3 minutes later, that wouldn't be doing that. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, nitrous like kicks up visuals for sure. It kicks up the like body buzz a ton and adds its own thing to it, because nitrous has its own buzz, but it's completely different. If you just like do nitrous and like you're not tripping, I mean it's all right. It's kind of a stupid like buzz, but like it lasts maybe 30 seconds. So that's the part that like synergizes with psychedelics, is it's like 3 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
like I said, it builds up. Like it's as you do
Yeah, yeah.
more, it's just like it's like a roller coaster. It like goes up and down, but then it's like kind of well, or it's like a crypto chart, you know, like it
Yeah.
goes up and down, but it's like always going up. That's kind of how it is, you know.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough about nitrous with psychedelics. I mean, it's I don't know.
Do you
I and everyone I've talked to, it's like no, you know, they haven't done it like or you know really devoted a trip to it. You know, it's like a different thing. Um, I mean, there's a reason like the Grateful Dead. If you watch like their documentary, the like 6-parter that's on Amazon, they like there's a whole like 10-minute clip about how much nitrous they used to do, you know, and this is like the Grateful Dead, like they're responsible for the spread of LSD use around the country, and their sound guy made most of the LSD that was ingested in the 60s and 70s, um, and yeah, they like traveled with tanks of nitrous and like them and all their roadies and stuff, like they tripped and did nitrous off of fucking tanks.
do you wish that you took more? Like not nitrous, obviously,
Oh,
but
mushrooms
your
on this
the
trip?
mushrooms.
Not for this trip. No, this was
No.
kind of just a perfect thing. I mean, next time I will. Like that's I guess you know what I was getting at about you know having to have a more challenging trip to kind of figure some shit out. Um, Definitely 2.25 grams and all the accessories I've talked about. You know, uh, it's not going to do that. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, nitrous helps in those situations. But I don't know. On 5 grams of mushrooms, I don't know if I would like have the balls to do nitrous, you know?
You don't want to ramp that up any
Yeah.
more than it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So, do we
Yeah, man.
is there anyone in the chat? I wasn't looking.
Yeah, we got some people in chat. I don't not many questions. We got some people. Somebody asked like what you saw on the when and said it kind of sounds like you were in a DMT land. Uh, Somebody else responded. Well, and thank you everybody that's talking in the chat. But somebody else said that they recommended our podcast to somebody walking on the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, awesome.
Um, and then just some positive comments about Kratom, and yeah, that's pretty much about it right now.
Yeah.
And somebody
I
saying
mean,
that Tether's going to the moon.
yeah, we could actually talk some crypto, but first I want to address, you know, sharing, spreading the word on the Appalachian Trail. First off, I mean, fuck, that's awesome. You're on the Appalachian Trail. I mean, I've hiked a little bit of it, like where it goes through areas where like I've have friends or family that live, but um, I mean, the Appalachian. Do you know anything about that, Stan?
Yeah, yeah,
Do you
yeah.
know what they're?
No.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I actually have a friend who like quit his job, nice job and everything, to walk the whole thing in one go.
Did you do it?
He didn't make it the whole way,
No.
but then he finished it up. Like then it got like, because I don't think you can do it all in a year, and it's like it got too cold. That I think, and it's like he called it quits for the winter and then picked it back up when it was warmer.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I think it's like a
but
9 month thing,
uh,
right? 6 to 9 months or something like that.
yeah, and I guess it just matters when you time it, and you know, I mean, when you're going through the mountains, like it could be winter when it's not
Yeah,
winter in
yeah.
other places. Um, but whatever, like he, you know, yeah, quit his job to fucking do that, and like I I don't know if you've ever seen this phenomenon with like I don't think it's just the Appalachian Trail, but I think it's like hikers in general. Like you get like a trail name, you know, and like he goes by that name now and everything, and you know, I don't know, it's pretty
That
cool.
is
I
cool.
like trail culture, but but anyway, yeah, like thanks for spreading the word, and I mean that's really like at this stage of our podcast, that's one of the most important things, you know. Like Stan and I, you know, maybe haven't stuck to a regular schedule of
Mm-hmm.
recording and stuff like that, and definitely you know our outside obligations you know hamper that or whatever. But we you know like we're dedicated to continuing to create content as much as we can, um, and engage with the community like these live streams and stuff like that. Um, but it's like the more it grows and the more it spreads and the more people tune in, the more motivated we'll be to produce more content and better quality and stuff like that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm really really grateful, really appreciative of anyone that's doing that, and I love hearing that. So oh yeah, thanks for spreading the word.
Yeah.
um what were we gonna say?
You want to dive into some crypto?
Oh yeah, yeah, crypto. Let's talk crypto.
It's kind of like a popular topic again right now. It feels like it's going back to the way it was in 2016 or whenever, when the hype train
Yeah.
started building up.
I I think though we're actually a little earlier than that. I think we're at the phase that was right before you or I even got involved. I think we're at the phase where it popped up on my radar, but before I figured out or
Invested. Yeah.
felt inspired to start getting involved. And I know there's been some people on the Discord that have gotten involved prior to this, and they're seeing like, oh, hey, wait a minute. Like
Mm-hmm.
the $20 I put in is now worth 50. What the heck, or whatever. And it's this is still a good time, like I hate saying last chance, but if it's this time next year and you're like, all right, what about this Bitcoin stuff? How do I get it? It does seem like then you're the sucker. You're about to get played. You're the one, like I'm not going to say that crypto isn't a Ponzi scheme, because it reacts like one, but it does need the bubbles need suckers, and the suckers are going to be in the next couple years. Um, and so like anyone who's been like really on the fence, it's like it is almost time to shit or get off the pot, you know. And there may be, I will put this out there, I don't feel very confident about any global market. I think there's a lot of economic chickens that need to come home to roost once the United States stops stimulus stuff, and or once the stimulus stops having an effect. um, I think markets will crash, and I think crypto will crash with it. So there might be a better buying opportunity than right now to start putting money in, but it's like a ladder. What rung on the ladder is Bitcoin going to get to when it does fall in that crash? That fall might be higher than it is right now, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
game you play. That's the mind fuck with it all. Which is, it's a very important that if you're going to invest in crypto, to understand it's a long haul and understand you need to see a whole cycle play out, because that's what I've learned over the last 3 years of watching, a bear market is like, okay, I just got played because I came in at the end. What was the game? I didn't even know it was a game, and so like you kind of have to be in it or really, really, really do some hardcore research to understand what the game is, and so that's like, as far as like market stuff with crypto, like that's really what I've been telling people, because I'm starting to get, like you said, that hype starting again. I'm starting to get
Mm-hmm.
private messages from people. My neighbor asked me about it. It's there's a lot of like, well, what's up with this Bitcoin stuff? I thought it was dead, or whatever.
Yeah.
And uh that's what I've been really telling people is like, yeah, it's not dead, and it's gonna be fucking crazy in like a year. Um, and if you're at all interested in fucking being involved, I would do it now. I wouldn't do it all at once. I would, you know, dollar cost average in and just start researching it. Turn your fucking awareness to finance and markets. Um, you know, I'm not, I still, I need to, you know, emphasize it. Like, I'm not talking about getting rich. I'm talking about financial freedom, Um, even the like ascension people, like Jessa Reed, who I guess I haven't talked about in
Mm-hmm.
a while, but I still listen to her podcast every episode. Um, even like the kind of people talking to the aliens and talking to the spirit guides, this period leading up to whatever the fuck is about to happen for humanity, um, that like being out of debt, not having that weight, not owing people anything, is kind of an important thing for truly awake people, not woke people, but truly spiritually awakening type of people. Um, that being out of debt is an important uh, part of this phase, right before whatever happens. So, not that I buy totally into that, but I do feel I feel that uh, inspiration and motivation in myself from a spiritual sense of like, I've been in debt my whole goddamn life. I've gone through it before, but
Mm-hmm.
my credit history is a nightmare. But it's also, I've played the game good enough that it's actually not that bad now, but I've went through everything they say you're not supposed to go through, or people are trying not to.
Yeah.
And but for the first time in my life, going into all the economic dominoes that are lining up for at least the US economy, but obviously that'll affect the global economy. um, for the first time in my life, or my adult life, I've really felt like I need to take care of this. I need to get this fucking monkey off my back. And that's what crypto can provide for people, with a true understanding of it. Um, there, I obviously, there's a little bit of me that believes the whole, like, the banks are going to topple and Bitcoin's going to become the world reserve currency. And, if you don't have it, you're screwed. And if you have it, you're going to be all right. And there's a little bit of that, I believe, but it's more likely just going to provide a very good return on investment that can help you speed up the time that you can, you know, become financially free. You don't have to wait till you're retired or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I'm just along for the ride, and I've been like a part of these crypto casinos online, and I've been like diving into them recently, not necessarily gambling, but just seeing their inner workings and like watching people on Twitch play them. And it's like so futuristic.
Yeah.
It's like you can kind of see where things are tilting, you
Oh yeah,
know.
man.
And like one of these guys on Twitch that doesn't even like have his face on camera or anything. He just has like his screen showing and like a weird like 3D character or whatever. He has this like there's a game that you can play on it called Crash, and it's just how many multiplier of your bet will it go, and if you don't pull out fast enough, you lose your money. And he has this script written that he streams, and like he gambles 10 satoshi, and it's a 24-hour stream. He gambles 10 satoshi every time and has like a pull out multiplier that he pulls out, and he's just making his way up to a one whole Bitcoin.
Huh.
And it's just like, this is ridiculous. Like people can just farm money, and
Yeah.
like, and you see other people that are playing slots and whatnot, and just like all these people are accumulating. Unfortunately, a lot of them are like kids because of Twitch, but a lot of the people that are doing it with like a plan are just farming and farming like massive amounts of Bitcoin through these things. I mean, a ton of people are losing too, but it's just like another thing that's it's like marketing for
Yeah.
these coins. It's like Tron's one of the ones that's on all of the casinos is Tron, which is crazy to me, and I'm sure that's part of their marketing is like we need to get on all these casinos, locking to these. I
Yeah.
don't know, it's just cool to see. Like I never knew that that even existed, and like you don't there's no tie to it. Like there's no because it's all in crypto. There's no uh, document verification or anything like that. You can withdraw anytime you want.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like there's obviously real world financial applications for crypto, like, Chainlink is an altcoin that I like that, um, I've tried to figure out what the fuck it does, and it makes sense, and they have a lot of partnerships, but then I also can't like really describe what it
Mm-hmm.
does. Like I've just read enough to where I'm like, okay, that used enough words to sound like they know what they're talking about. But but you know, but there's also that whole other side that's like, kind of falls into like the like V-Buck realm of like where we're going with online value,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and yeah, for video games and gambling and stuff like that, I think it's huge. There was a story that came out maybe last week. I don't know if you saw this, and it's one thing that like makes me realize like we are entering that hype cycle you talked about, that like where there's just so much bullshit that comes out and it's all clickbait and like, oh, you got to get this coin, you're going to get starting, to get shield coins and stuff like that. But also there's going to be like hype that isn't real over Bitcoin. And this one story came out, and it was on, I watch a YouTube channel, The Modern Investor,
Mm-hmm.
and he's really good because it just goes through crypto news, and he has a very good take on everything. I think he's really moderate and level headed. Um, and but he said that ESPN had started um a gambling platform using Bitcoin, and you could deposit and withdraw Bitcoin and bet Bitcoin, and that to mark their um, uh, start of this venture, they were having a contest and giving away like 1,000 Bitcoin to different winners, and I was like, holy fuck, ESPN? Are you fucking kidding me? And then I was like, wait a minute. And I'm watching his video and he's talking about it, and I was like, I'm I'm gonna Google that, and I Googled it, and I got like 10 pages deep in Google results, clicking links, and every fucking mention of this was a crypto website. And I was like, don't you think ESPN would at least have a fucking banner on their website saying like, hey, we got a sports betting, um, gambling thing using Bitcoin? No, nothing. There was no release of this information from anything other than a crypto website. And so and it's still that way. So I'm like, well, obviously this is a bullshit story that's like just running to ramp up, trading in Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was
It's
right
weird. It's
before it went
weird
on
being
this.
in this time that like there's AI created articles.
Well, I mean, there I'm not going to say there isn't AI created articles, and but there's potentially AI created, you know, video and news and
Yeah, yeah.
everything. I really like, we've gotten to a point where I can't rule any of that out. Deep fakes are good enough to like be like, I don't know, maybe Trump died 5 years ago and never even was president. Like I can get that deep with like AI and deep fakes, but I think like it's more just shows, well, first off, how small the crypto market is and how easily moved and manipulated it can be, because one article can come out and it goes up 5%, which until recently it would take the stock market weeks to do. But uh it it just shows in how big of an influence media is, in the area it's looking to go. So like, okay, so we're talking about like how a fake story can like influence crypto prices. Look at like a fake story with like coronavirus right now can influence stock prices of a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
Like inconclusive results that get reported by a media source and spread um as an opinion that, oh, it shows this or whatever for a vaccine or therapy or drug or whatever, can affect the market price of the stock price of the company that puts that out. And like, how much of that happens, how many news stories, while they may incite panic or relieve stress or whatever anxiety in a society, um they influence the market surrounding that so much. And this ESPN story is obviously fake, but it's in a market that doesn't get as much notice and whatever and regulatory oversight and everything as the stock market. But like, how much of our mainstream media and not just our mainstream media, but like our social media and the links that get sent and everything, how much of that is actually just being produced to affect market price of the stock market that is crazy volatile right now? I mean, the stock market's acting like the crypto
Mm-hmm.
market. And how much of that is all this media shit that we're just fucking ingesting like so much right now,
Yeah. Yeah, I saw the other day like Kodak is making cameras currently to start doing work on the vaccine and medicine, and their
Yeah.
stock went up 560%.
They also got a bailout from the government.
Yeah.
They had like a $800 million loan uh, from the Fed um, to do that, and like, how crazy is that, right? Like, yeah, a company that shouldn't exist anymore that used to make film, like, I mean, what does Kodak do anymore? Now they're like, actually, yeah, fuck all that. We make vaccines for this bug that's, this virus that's gonna kill everyone. Like, now we're making vaccines and we needed money from the government. It's like, no, they were fucking gonna go out of business.
Yeah.
And like, why are we like, okay, now they're a drug research company? Like, that's ridiculous. That's all just market shit. It's all just the Fed printing money and giving it away to people. Um, because I mean, like, I'm really up on like the virology and like the, you know, vaccine development, and like the mainstream media, which is affecting the market and stuff like that, tells a very different story about vaccine development than like what actual virologists and scientists are saying about it. And that Kodak thing just shows me like, no, this is all about money, man. Like, the fucking the central bank system is going down, and they're trying to goose as much out of it as they can before the whole fucking shit house goes down.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always thought that like when we bailed out all the banks and all the car companies and all the big businesses, like over the course of the past decade, it's just like that goes against capitalism completely, and just
Yeah,
is gonna blow everything up. Like,
yeah, it's complete corporate socialism. Um, there's an old joke, like, what is capitalism? Well, capitalism is when a banker, a blue collar worker, and an immigrant are sitting around a table, and there's a plate with 3 cookies on it, and the banker takes 2 of them and says to the worker, like, hey, you better take your cookie or that immigrant's going to take it. And like, that's our fucking like media and economy in this country, like, in a nutshell, is that like, we have this, I believe, take all the systems and politics out of it. I believe there's abundance in the universe. And I think that's a universal truth that people can't get rid of. But if you're looking just within the system, there should be abundance in the system because there's abundance in the universe. But they've created this situation of like, we can't afford that. We can't afford to help out the people that support this fucking thing, of government. Like, and they create this situation where it's like, y'all aren't going to have jobs if we don't bail that fucking billionaire out. And everyone buys into that. And they create this like, I guess, what's the term, like xenophobia, like, think of the whole, like, our current administration, their whole, why they got into power was like, we're going to build a wall and keep the immigrants out,
mhm.
and stuff like that. And that was like what people thought, like, oh, that means we'll all have more money if the immigrants are gone. And it's like, that's not the issue. The issue is that like, some people are taking all the fucking goddamn cookies, you know and that's how all these bailouts are, and all this corporate restructuring to to receive these bailouts. It's all fucking bullshit. And what sucks is people like believe in that so much that they're okay with that. They only got a check for $1,200. Like, the government passes trillions and trillions of dollars worth of stimulus that results in the actual taxpayers getting $1,200, and they're somehow with the media able to turn that into, yeah, but you know what the fucking problem is? It's those lazy fucks on unemployment getting $600 extra. It's those fucks that's why we can't afford to have bigger checks, you know. And it's like, wait, what? Everybody could be getting bigger checks, like, you know. And they're not lazy; they lost their jobs because of the fucking pandemic, you know. But I see so much debate over that, like, you know, this new stimulus package that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I see so much debate of people like, we should get more than $1,200, and people being like, well, we could if unemployed people weren't getting $600, and it's like, y'all are fighting the wrong people here, you know, because yeah, in this stimulus package, Kodak gets $800 million to completely change what their company is, like, you know, with government money. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And I guess where I'm going with that rant is like, that's why Bitcoin's blowing up right now, because the people that buy and invest in Bitcoin and trade Bitcoin, well, maybe not the trade part. I mean, some of the traders, but the people that buy, hold, and invest in Bitcoin, they see all that. They see what's fucking going on, and they know
Yeah.
that that system eats its own fucking tail, you know. And that a new system will arise. It may be Bitcoin, it may not, but it's going to look a lot like fucking Bitcoin. I can tell you that much, you know. Um, and that's why Bitcoin's blowing up right now, is just because, like, the United States government, which runs the global economy, can pump out whatever fucking numbers they want to make it look okay. They can use as many excuses as they want to, you know, get out from underneath the stuff that actually, you know, like the GDP went down for this quarter or the last quarter more than it did in the Great
Yep.
Depression. And they, you know, they can be like, well, but the coronavirus, you know, that's why. And we're gonna have this awesome recovery afterwards, and it's great, you know. And it's like, okay, you know, um, the Bitcoiners see that, they see what's going on, and they're like, yeah, I think I'd rather have Bitcoin. And you know, if you look at the statistics, the Bitcoin that's being bought and sold and traded, that amount is dwindling, and the amount being just held is increasing. You know, um, I mean, we're coming to Bitcoin's like ride or die moment in the next like 3 to 5 years. You know, but before the next halving event, Bitcoin has to fucking be look a lot better than most of the fiat currencies out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it will with the evolution of technology and like just the user experience end. I think that's kind of like the only thing that's really holding it back right now. That and like people knowing about it. Like whenever anybody hears
Yeah.
about it, it's just they assume people that are outside the space assume that it's very challenging to get in, you know, and they don't understand the ease of it. But we have some people in comments, people commenting about Bitcoin that I'll read off. First off, actually, we have somebody in the chat that said they hiked the whole Appalachian Trail. Their name was Sparks in 2017, 2,198 miles, best time of his life, or his or her
Nice.
life.
That's
Um,
awesome.
we got somebody, Bitcoin 5 year ROI is 3,700% gain.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, First National City Bank of New York charted Bitcoin will be 120,000 in 18 months. They know something and they're investigating digital currencies because the Fed is a bunch of idiots. Bitcoin just broke out of a 2.5 year wedge. All signs are moon. Um, let's see what else we got here. If Bitcoin drops below 11,000 and it is dead, I'll buy it from you for $5. Bitcoin is an international safe haven from the failing world economy. A lot of holders in the comments. Some back and forth about Monero, and then a comment asking if we teen is even real. It seems like they made a test that triggers positive on any flu or toxicity? Question mark. If you want to take that one, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to switch gears, but also actually include what I was
Yeah.
talking about. Um, so I know a lot of people, either personally or friends of friends, that have gotten COVID. And I know some people were like, man, it was fucking awful. Like I couldn't get rid of this fever for a couple
I mean, it's
weeks, and
certainly
like
real.
it's certainly
Yeah.
real. I know one person who ended up in a hospital, but they were like an older dude who smoked and drank every
Yeah.
day and wasn't healthy anyway, you know? And like, so that's like definitely the thing I'm seeing with this is like, if you ain't healthy, this ain't going to be good for you,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, but then also that may not even be true because you know, the biggest problem with our country is like the lack of testing and the price of like voluntary testing. Um, and so even with the testing numbers we have, the numbers look like there's an 80% chance you're not going to know you had it, you know? Um, and then from there, your age and health wise depend on how severe, if you do know you had it and you do know you're sick, your age and health condition um, definitely plays a role. Um, but then there's complete outliers. I know of a 16-year-old that died of a stroke. I know there was, someone on our Discord who had a child that lost taste and smell and had a fever. You know, there is younger people that get this, but the important thing to remember is that this virus is extraordinarily contagious, and it is spread just uh, something we haven't seen in our lifetime. It has spread quicker than anything else. Um, and because of that, it's likely to come in contact with people that are in that outlier range that will have a hard time with it and possibly even die. Um, but the numbers, if you break down the statistics from a completely objective, uh, you know, just step outside and just be like, what are the fucking numbers? And look at your county, look at all the, it's like something to be cautious of, but I think the time is over to be um, to think we can run and hide from it, or to think that we can wait until there's a vaccine, because everything I hear from actual scientists is like, even if they have a vaccine by like Christmas, the politics and red tape that go into
Mm-hmm.
vaccine production and distribution is like it's a year, and it would take a scientific breakthrough of biblical proportions to have the right vaccine ready for reproduction or production uh, by the end of the year. And so like we're talking vaccine is 2 years away. And every step of the way with this thing, they've been like, oh, when it gets hot out, it's going to go away. No, it didn't. You know, now they're going to be like, they can't say, oh, when it gets cold, it's going to come out because that's when flu season is anyway. So, like, we're just not going to be able to run and hide from this thing. We're not going to be able to, um, yeah, the spread of how contagious it is, which I think the CDC said like they think they're 10 times more people in the country had it or have had it uh, um, than what we know because of the
Mm-hmm.
testing. It's going to catch. It's not going. The vaccine is not going to catch up to the virus. And then you got to think all these people arguing about masks and vaccines and stuff like that. Like half the country isn't going to fucking take the vaccine, you know, and it's like it's obviously a very real thing. I think the media hypes up the numbers, but also nobody is looking at like the evolutionary thing going on here. And like, me having a degree in evolution, like that's what I go to think of. We need to start looking at this as this virus is a selection pressure, which is a term in evolution of like what makes things evolve is like the selection pressures. And it's a selection pressure on the human race starting now and going forward. And what I mean by that is like, we heard at the start with this all coming out that oh, the common cold is a coronavirus, and everyone said that. I don't know if you heard that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's more to that. That at one point that common cold coronavirus jumped from some animal into the human population and caused a pandemic. Now, that pandemic, because humans weren't as global as they were, as we are now, that pandemic was stretched out over 1,000 years, maybe. I don't know, but it started in humans and it ravaged humans at a time when there probably wasn't medicine. And eventually, immune systems and the strains of the virus dulled down to a point where they could coexist. And that has, progressed through thousands, millions, whatever of years to a point where it's just this bug that, you get a runny nose. Kids have it all the time. They pass it back and forth. Every now and then, an adult gets it real bad, and they're bedridden for a couple of days. And if someone's really immunocompromised, they could die from it or whatever. But that's just kind of how it is, and that's how SARS-CoV-2 is going to end up being. It's too widespread to be like, oh, we got a handle on this now. Like it's just going to continue to spread. Now, if we wouldn't have locked down and created this whole political debate over like how to handle stuff, and if everyone was just like, hey, there's this respiratory bug going around, you should wear a mask and you probably won't get it, I think we would be in a different place. I think the government created this whole divisive, nonsense that like totally affected the economy. And I could even go down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole of being like, that's what they planned it. But whether or not it was planned, it was mishandled at the very least, and made the whole thing worse, and is going to perpetuate the spread. Honestly, that we were so divisive to have a narrative of like, we're doing this for you. Stay home, save lives. I'm wearing this mask for you, not for me. That's the wrong narrative. We're not yet as sympathetic to each other as we should be. They should have had the narrative be like, protect yourself. Like that should have been the narrative. And I don't think it would have spread as quick. And honestly, I forgot what podcast I was talking about. I think it was Duncan Trussell, where he was saying it's like social media is the true vector of this disease, and that creating the protests and the COVID parties and the anti-maskers and all of these things is actually increasing the spread of this virus, and then it's like this negative feedback loop of like increasing the spread of the virus, increasing the distrust of each other and the angst and all this stuff, and then it has all these political things, and that filters into the market, and it's like the virus kicked that off, but that snowball is rolling down the hill and has nothing to do with the virus at this point,
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That's kind of how I look at the whole coronavirus thing. Like, I don't think it's fake. I don't think. I think if you get it, like there is a chance that you could have a really rough time and possibly even die. But I think for as paranoid as I may be sometimes, I'm actually an optimist, and it's like there's a 80% chance, and maybe even higher than that, that it's not going to be a problem at all, and you're not even going to know you had it, and you're going to look. What I'm getting at is we're going to look back at this time and ponder and write books about the effect that everything else had from this virus more than we're going to look at this virus. People are not going to be talking about the nucleotide pairs of the spike proteins of coronavirus in 20 years. They're going to be talking about the fucking social media civil war that fucking went on,
Yeah. Well, I think like one of the big things that at the beginning that the people that were proponents of like shutting things down and whatnot, the figureheads always would say, if it feels like at the end of it all, basically you won't know if you did it right because the result will be nothing happening. It'll feel like it'll feel like an overreaction. You know,
Yeah.
if we react now, it'll feel like an overreaction later, and I think that just brings up the contention of it being not the right plan, or you know, like
Yeah.
not the
I,
right idea to go down mass, or I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I get that, and I agree with that statement from them. However, and this is where the conspiracy theorist in me about, you know, global elites and
Yeah.
fiat money and central banks can take over, is that it's like it's a pretty steep attempt to try to you know, use uh the greatest unemployment increase since the Great Depression and a greater GDP loss in a quarter than the Great Depression, and just the epic amount of stuff coming down the financial pipeline as far as like loan forgiveness and mortgage forgiveness and unemployment benefits and uh, you know, loan payments kicking in of the PPP loans, all the stuff that's about to just start happening that is going to have an effect on the bank. It's going to be hard to look at the outcome of all that, and the inflation we're going to see from all the money printing. It's hard to look at the outcome of that and be like, oh well, it's just an overreaction. We thought it would be worse. It's like, okay, well, like you know, like we were shutting down to stop 2.5 million people from dying, but instead, you know, 70, 80 million people lost their job forever. You know, like that's more than an overreaction, I guess, is what I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
at. You know, that, and that's where the conspiracy theorist is in me goes, is like all those dominoes were lining up. I mean, I've been talking about forever with Bitcoin and stuff like that, of like the Fed, you know, rate fuckery and you know, just fiat money in general, and the central bank system and everything. Uh, all of that shit was really going south right before the coronavirus, and then it's like the coronavirus hit, and they were really quick to ruin the economy. You know, like that was the first thing they fucking did. Like we couldn't try the masks first. You know, like I mean, they were really quick to do that. They were really quick to, you know, the senators were really quick to sell their stock. The you know, the stimulus bill like gave out a fucking peasant's wage to people, and didn't follow up on that. I mean, it sent the dead people and,
Yeah.
you know, like whatever. Like it was just so sloppily done as far as the like actual relief to people. But you know, we got a new FBI building, and you know, they did some upgrades to the Pentagon, and so, like that was it. You know, like they like just stole all this fucking money to like reinforce the military industrial complex and like bail out all these company stocks, and you know, the airlines and cruise ships and all the stuff. Like that's what they fucking jumped on. Like that was how they, you know, that was the overreaction, was like, let's give all these people that don't need money a lot of money, you know, and let's give the people that need money not that much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's pretty
uh,
standard.
I mean, it's standard, but it's like that's the part that seems planned. If it's something that keeps happening and we see that it has a negative effect, well, then it's probably being done on purpose, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know. um,
Unfortunately, it doesn't get a rise out of people.
No, it doesn't, because enough people are able to be scared by like a story of some dude dying on a ventilator and be like, "Oh my God, I don't want that to be me. I don't want that to be my parents," which I don't either, obviously, but I just haven't been convinced by the sources. You know, I triangulate my sources. I pay attention to like apolitical and both sides of the spectrum politically, and that helps me get my view of reality. Um, you know, it's uh I don't know. I just I see the government response as like purely financial and purely benefiting, at least in the short term, a system that was crumbling right before this thing that caused them to have to bail them out or whatever, you know. And it just seems like they jumped on the opportunity to try to fucking lessen the blow of the crash to them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um and again, that's like, I don't know that Bitcoin is the answer to it, but it's the best answer for me, you know, like it's the easiest for me to do and to uh you know, to put my energy behind, you know. um Yeah, so I guess yeah. I mean, with that rant, I'm not saying that Bitcoin cures coronavirus, but it's like the 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 the, the time after coronavirus is going to be much scarier, and Bitcoin cures that period. I feel like it will.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all in on it. Like, I'm all for it. And I think it would be. I think it solves a lot of the issues economically that we're facing. You know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, I never looked at it. I haven't really looked at the economic side of it all like you have. I'm just. I don't know. I just like tuning out more so than anything.
Oh yeah. I mean, I so when I talk about finances and global economics and stuff like that, like obviously that has a very personal thing because like I said, I want to not owe anyone
Mm-hmm.
anything. I'm not trying to roll around in Mercedes and stuff like that. It's just I don't want to owe anyone anything. I want to have freedom. um I don't, I'm not saying like everyone needs to pay attention to this. But I think almost everybody needs to pay a little more attention than they do, to where like I invest a lot of time in reading and listening to boring ass economic podcasts and blogs and articles and stuff like that. And like, I'm not saying to everyone in the Discord, like, hey, you got to listen to this podcast that, you know, this guy talking about modern monetary theory and stuff like that. Like, I understand it's not for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but I hope I come across this way as like trying to bring up the bullet points to show how this relates to everyone, even if you never think about money, even if you think you don't have enough money to invest in anything, or even if you think investing is for grandpas or whatever. Like, it's important. Even someone take someone, of uh Will's generation, like, yeah, he's 18. He doesn't have any money to buy Bitcoin or whatever. Like, I get it. But if I was 18 and at least started thinking about that a little bit, started
Mm-hmm.
thinking about investing, started thinking about money and what money is and stuff like that, like, I think it would be a lot better. You'd be on a better road to financial freedom than starting even paying attention to that stuff when you're 35, like I was. um, so, like, I guess that's why I hammer on that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that's smart too. Is like connect the dots for people, that aren't really looking into it. I think that helps bring a ton
Yeah,
of new faces in.
yeah,
Yeah, man. We don't got any more comments or anything to riff on, but
yeah. That's cool. I mean, I bet
we're
we're
like an hour and a
like an
half.
hour and a
Yeah.
half anyway. Yeah, yeah, man. That was a good talk about mushrooms and Bitcoin and coronavirus, I guess.
Always do. Do we got some